I think we're live. Yeah, it's Nick Atkin and John Hyun Ko on SCMP MMA. This is the post-fight podcast. It's a live chat today. We're going to be talking about all the MMA news, the latest news in the world of MMA, UFC, One Championship, Bellator, everything. John, first of all, what's up with you? How you been, sir?
Good, man. Life is rolling, and we're about to roll into 2021. A lot of big news, a lot of free agent signings, a lot of movement. I love it, man. And we still have a few shows left in this year. We got UFC Vegas 17. We have one collision course. I think two more shows, right? And then we got Ryzen 26. So there's still some stuff out there for the MMA fans. So don't trip because the UFC's taking a break for the next month or so. There's a lot of MMA going around the world. You know, ACA is going strong. There's so much going on. Let's get into all of that.
Damn it, John, you had to remind me. I thought I was about to get a nice break from MMA shows. I know I've just been on holiday, but yeah, it's been so much MMA this year, especially since May. UFC is going to be gone for 4 weeks, but yeah, there's going to be plenty of stuff still to talk about, still to cover. Rising, I'm looking forward to, yeah. But today, I guess I wanted to start with talking about Yoel Romero. UK to start with that. We can do that.
For sure. For sure.
Yoel Romero, he's signed for Bellator, yeah. So I'm going to bring up on screen an article from MMA Fighting, but to me, the interesting thing is Scott Coker seemed to shoot this down a couple of weeks ago when it was first raised after Yoel got cut from the UFC. Malky and Abe have done their jobs. Clearly, they've talked him around into having Yoel in Bellator. It looks like he's going to fight at light heavyweight, but then Malky said he can fight in 3 divisions there. What's your take? Is this a good move for Yoel? Is it a good move for Bellator?
Definitely a good move for Yoel. Definitely a good move for Bellator. It's a good move all around. You know what I mean? Like Romero, when he got released by the UFC, everybody was like, "Oh, these promotions are turning him down and they're not interested." Come on, like we cannot believe that anymore. You know what I mean? Like when Anderson was released and all these promotions were saying that they're not interested, I don't believe that either. It's like blasphemous. Like these guys are the top. They're still like the top 20 fighters in the world. Yoel's still like a top 10, top 5 fighter in the world at middleweight. And if he goes up to light heavyweight, I'm excited for it because now he doesn't have to cut the weight and he's still jacked, you know, without cutting the weight. So let's see what he can do, man. I want to see how powerful he can be. I'm pretty sure his speed will still be there. And he, you know, at 40, I believe he's 44 years old. I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. So he's gonna be a wrecking machine. He's gonna be a wrecking ball in this division at light heavyweight. I really don't want to see him at middleweight. You know, I want to see him at light heavyweight and maybe even heavyweight. Why not? You know what I mean? Like there's not much of a difference there. And we've seen Dan Henderson do it. He went up to heavyweight, even though he was a 185 or a light heavyweight, and fight Fedor. Imagine Yoel Romero versus Fedor. Come on, like there's so many matchups here, like at heavyweight, at light heavyweight. It's incredible. That light heavyweight division is stacked now. You cannot deny it, man. Like it is stacked.
Yes, good shout there. I was going to ask you next. You've already taken it out of my mouth. Who do we think Romero should fight first up in Bellator? You got any other names you think might be good? I'm just looking over. MMA Junkie have done an article along those lines. I'll try and bring that up on screen.
Well,
Corey Anderson.
it'd be just better to go to the Bellator website and then you go to fighters and then go down to light heavyweight and then the whole roster will be there. So we can just look at every single fighter at light heavyweight and go through it if you
All
can.
right, I'll do
Find
that.
it
You
there.
talk. So
Of course. So let
Bellator,
me
light
list
heavyweight.
off some of the names that you know that stick out to me in that division, and then there's some guys that are prospects or mid-level guys that could do some damage. You got Corey Anderson, you got Carl Albrechtsen, you got Simone Bion who fought for Ryzen. Albrechtsen also fought for Ryzen. Corey Anderson, he's a top contender at light heavyweight. You got Lee Chadwick, you got Phil Davis, You got Anthony Johnson, Rumble Johnson, who's we're probably going to mention eventually. We got Melvin Manhoef, Liam McGreary, a former champ. You got the champ. I think like the champ is the guy that's going to be the champ for a while, to be honest with you. Even though Yoel Romero, Anthony Johnson, all these big names, these heavy hitters, are being added to this division, I still feel like Nemkov is the guy to beat. I feel like he is the most skilled. I feel like he is probably at his prime more than anybody else. You saw what he did to Ryan Bader, and I feel like Ryan Bader could beat Yoel Romero. I feel like Ryan Bader could beat Rumble Johnson. I feel like those matchups are going to be fun to watch, but I see them, I see Ryan Bader being able to beat those guys, and vice versa. I see Yoel Romero being able to beat, what is it, Ryan Bader. Rumble Johnson versus Yoel Romero, Rumble Johnson versus Ryan Bader. There's just some incredible matchups there. But to be honest with you, I don't want to see Rumble Johnson fight Ryan Bader right away. I don't want to see Yoel Romero fight Ryan Bader right away. I don't want to see those matchups, to be honest with you, right now. I want to see Yoel Romero go in there and fight somewhat of a mid-level guy, a mid-tier guy, you know what I mean, before he hits somebody like a Corey Anderson, somebody, before he hits Phil Davis, before he fights one of those guys. I want to see him fight a mid-level guy first, and to kind of get his bearings. You know what I mean? Like, it's always good to get your bearings, because look what happened to Corey Anderson, right? Corey Anderson, he gets signed by Bellator. Who does he fight in his first fight? Melvin Manhoef, right? By no ways Melvin Manhoef is like a top contender in that light heavyweight division. He's a big name, and he's a big name and everything, but man, it was a good like test to kind of get your bearings and get a win in there, and then the next fight coming up, yes, now you got a big contender, right? So does Corey Anderson have a fight lined up? Do you know? Man, I gotta
Dude,
check
I'm just
that.
trying to find these rankings on this Bellator website. I can't find them anywhere.
No,
Anyone
there's
shed
no
some light?
rankings. They're just
Do they?
you just go to fighters, and then you just
Oh,
go to
you
light
just want
heavyweight.
the page. I see. All right,
Yeah,
I can do that. Yeah.
the page.
Jesus. They don't have
All right.
rankings? Crazy.
All right, let's see what you got Dennis
Dude,
Denise Knowles. I doubt Bader beats Rumble in a rematch unless he has totally fell off. Now, I understand that argument, but you got to think Rumble hasn't fought in how many years? And Ryan Bader has been competitive the last couple of years. He was the champ, heavyweight, light heavyweight champ. He's beaten some big names, and he's beaten them in different ways. His like his mind for the game is different than it was when they fought. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Ryan Bader is a much smarter fighter now, and if he goes in there, he's not going to go in there and try to bang with Rumble. I think he's going to go in there and try to wrestle, kind of like how he did with Matt Mitrione. You know what I mean? He's somewhat smarter. So, I see your argument of Rumble going in there, because Rumble can go in there and knock out anybody on this planet. That guy has the speed, the power, and the accuracy to knock out anybody. And I could see Rumble going in there and becoming the champion too. But you can't underestimate Ryan Bader, man. We've underestimated Ryan Bader so many times, and it sucks that a lot of the guys that underestimate him, they get to see him. Did you expect Ryan Bader to go over to Bellator and become the light heavyweight champ, to become the world heavyweight champ? I don't think a lot of people expected that. But Ryan Bader evolved and snatched up those titles. Even though he lost his last fight against Nemkov, and I mentioned earlier, Nemkov is another animal. He's a beast, man. Like, he's just he got that Fedor lineage, and he's shown that he could compete with a lot of the people. So in this roster, you just got to go up there and click the light heavyweight, so it filters through.
God, this website is terrible.
You just
How the
gotta
hell did you do that?
up there on the top.
At the top?
No, go scroll down.
Scroll down. Where?
And you see where the weight classes come out. You see it says all fighters. Click that.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Need to
He's a
make that
light
a little
heavyweight.
bit clearer. Okay.
Okay, so now here we go. Okay, so you got Corey Anderson. So if you were going to rank these fighters, right, would you automatically rank like Rumble Johnson as the #1 contender? I don't think that's fair, right? Would you rank Corey Anderson as the #1 contender? I don't think that's fair, right? Because he's only beaten Melvin Manhoef, right? There's guys
Yeah,
like
Phil
the
Davis,
matchup
right?
that I want to see, and I wish that they would make these matchups is like Rumble Johnson versus. I don't want to see him fight like Phil Davis right away, but I see like Rumble Johnson against like not a Melvin Manhoef, but like this guy Simon. Go scroll up, please, and click
Yes,
this guy
sir.
Simone Bion right here.
He hasn't even got a picture. What
Yeah, he
the
hasn't got a
hell?
picture. He just got signed, right? But this guy, he is a
That's so Bellator.
legit prospect, like a legit prospect. I seen him fight at Rising in Japan. Like I seen him fight live. I met him. You know, this guy is a monster, right? This guy is a guy that nobody really knows his name, but look at him. He's 6'6" at 205 pounds. Just imagine how big he is, like just normally. You know what I mean? Like he's a monster. I think Rumble Johnson should fight this guy. This guy needs an opportunity. He's an up and coming guy. I don't want Rumble Johnson. Like I said, I don't want Rumble Johnson fighting for the title right away. I feel like they should fight a mid-level guy when they come in, a guy that has a decent record, a guy that is a good matchup, and Simon Biong is good for Rumble Johnson. For
So
Yoel Romero,
I got to bring up a picture of this guy because I
who
can't look at that. Simon
Biong?
Biong. Simon Biong. Hang on, I got it
Yeah,
here. One
go in
sec.
there.
I got
Yeah,
his Tapology page. So Bellator, sort your lives out. Get a picture of him on there. Okay, 7-1. Yeah. All
let's
right, I
see.
see what you're talking about.
He's a monster, dude. He's 6'6". Look at
Yeah,
him.
looks just like a scary dude, man.
29 years old, 6'6", 74-inch reach. Another guy from Cameroon who's fighting out of Italy. This
Oh,
guy is a
74
monster,
inches.
dude. Like
Crazy.
he's a monster. Like I would love to see Rumble Johnson fight him in his debut, and he hasn't fought yet for what is it, Bellator yet either. So let's put them together. Let's see what they can do. You know what I mean? Like let's see. Let them rumble. That's what I want to see. And Yoel Romero. Um, let's go back to the Bellator thing. Let's look at
Yeah,
what we got over there for Yoel Romero. I
one
think Yoel
second.
Romero should fight somebody that, you know, everybody's in love with like this Grand Prix and like putting everybody against each other. I'm not really in love with that idea. I would like to see Yoel Romero take on. Yeah, you gotta go down and filter that out. Okay, I would like to see Yoel Romero take on one of the guys that are coming up too. You know what I mean? Like, remember, Yoel Romero has lost his last 4 out of 5 too, right? So let's see who he can face. And the reason why I want Rumble Johnson to face Simone Bion is because Rumble Johnson hasn't fought in years, man. I feel like he needs like a. I don't think will be like a setup fight, but I feel like it's a good enough challenge to where he'll have to work for that win. You know what I mean? It won't be too easy. But Yoel Romero, who does he fight? I think he fights Liam McGreary. Liam McGreary is a former champ. Let's click on him. He has a picture.
He does
You
have a
know,
picture.
yeah,
Good
he's a
job,
Brit.
guys.
He's a Brit like you, right? He's 13-4. He has a decent record. Um, he's good, man, and he's pulled off some crazy submissions. He hasn't done very well as of late. He's also 6'6".
Yeah.
These light heavyweights are big, right? And I would like to see him fight Yoel Romero. I think that's a good fight for Yoel to kind of cut his teeth into the Bellator ranks. You know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are not going to agree with me about this, but let's see Sepiolot. What does he say? He says, bruv, I think we approach rankings wrong. Screw what they've done in the promotion. If they're the best from prior showings, rank them off that. So then, since Sepiolot, if you think that, then Yoel has lost his last 4 out of 5 fights. Where would you rank him? You know what I mean? Like, where would you rank him then? Like against these guys, like against like a Phil Davis, who's won a gang of fights as of late. I mean, where would you rank him? Like, I don't think if they were gonna make Bellator rankings right now, I would not put Yoel Romero above Phil Davis. That's just my point of view. You know what I mean? So maybe you got something else that you can say to kind of support yourself on that argument. But you know what I mean? Let's see. Denise, just keep Rumble away from dudes with the submission game. Yeah, but the thing is, like, Rumble Johnson hasn't really gotten submitted that many times. It's only been like DC, right? And DC is not known for his submission game. The only reason DC submitted him is because he wasn't able to knock him out, right? So yeah, I guess that's true. If a guy is able to take Rumble Johnson down and play that ground game on him, then maybe that's not going to work out too well. Let's see, Chris. Chris, where are you, Chris? Like, we need you here.
I think Chris is at work. Chris is working.
You have a job? Who has a job now? Nobody has a job now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's no work. Come on. What do you think we're doing right now? We're homeless. We're in our little caves right here. Okay.
Yeah, he's at work.
If you're at work, then shouldn't you be working? What are you doing, Chris? You need to keep your job. Work.
He's putting it in the background. He's being subtle, being sneaky. I like that. I respect that.
Chris. Sure. And he's typing too at the same time. Like, how much multitasking can you do? I wouldn't be able to do this at work. But anyways, Chris, his idea is, I like to see a Grand Prix as Bellator can use the UFC names to build up their own talent, to give them a name. I don't know, man. Like, Grand Prix are cool and everything, but I would like to just see them kind of put matchups together. I guess that would be kind of a short Grand Prix, right? You put the up and coming guys, the guys like I just mentioned, you know what I mean, like Byung and if you go back to that, let's go back to that to the list of fighters.
Yeah.
He puts up this argument of a Grand Prix, put the lesser, like Liam McGreary, he should be in the Grand Prix, right? So they should make, I don't, like people are saying they should make a 4-man Grand Prix. I don't believe that. I think they should make like if you're going to make a Grand Prix, make a real one. Make it like 8-man or make it 16, right? 8-man, 16.
Put in there?
I'll put, if I was going to put 8-man, 16, I would list off the names. So let's see who they got. They got Carl Albrechtsen, right? You could put him in there. Corey Anderson, put him in there. You got Arunas, you could put him in there. You got Julius, Angelakis, you could put him in there. You got, if you go down, you got Simon Byung, you could put in there. Phil Davis, you could put him in there. Who else is there? I kind of want to stay away from these guys that are like 4-0, 5-0, right? They're Anthony Johnson. You could put in Melvin Banhoof just for like nostalgia purposes. You put Liam McGreary in there. Nemkov, you could put him in there because Bellator will put the champions in the tournament. You got Nemkov. You put, is there any more? You put Rumble Johnson, of course, and you put Yoel. How many is that? I guess you would have to have an 8-man, right? There's not enough for 16, so you make an 8-man.
Well, if you're 16, you can get some of those guys with the smaller records, but it's probably
I don't
not going to be
that, right?
Yeah,
there might be some like major mismatches. So I guess a 8-man tournament would be sufficient. I don't like the 4-man tournament idea. Yeah, that's a fair point, but I like to think about it a bit. Okay, good, man. It's all good. What is it? Let's see. Denise, Rumble has 5 losses to submissions. Exactly, man. Like, you don't want him to face somebody with the submission game, or do you? What do they want to do with Rumble Johnson, right? Are they using him to build him to become the champion, to become the face of the light heavyweight division? Or are they using him to kind of show the UFC that we got better talent? What is the purpose of Rumble Johnson, right? We don't know. So Rumble Johnson's job is just to win fights and create highlights and put people into the nether regions, right? Into Neverland Ranch, that just destroy them, right? That's his job. But what is the plans for him? What does Bellator want from Rumble Johnson? And I'm pretty sure that's what they want. They want to see highlight reels. They want him to get on like ESPN top 5 plays of the night with some insane like knockouts, like those knockouts, like what is it? The one that Glover Teixeira, right? When he knocked him out with the uppercut and his tooth flew out. That's what they want, right? That's what they want from Rumble. So maybe that's right. What is it? Denise? Yeah. He said, I agree with Chris with Grand Prix. Yeah, Grand Prix is a good idea. Let's see what Chris says. Johnson, McGreary, Nemkov, Bader, Yoel, Davis, and 2 more. Yeah, you put Byung in there, right? And then you put one more guy that is a good prospect, and then you go. There you go. You got a sick Grand Prix, right? 8-man. It's a good idea, actually. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, Yoel and Rumble Johnson signing to Bellator, they're that's beautiful additions to that roster, man. And I feel like before the end of the year, we're gonna see more signings by Bellator. You know what I mean? Because they're not just signing what is it, like legends or like icons or whatever. They're not doing it. They're not doing that anymore. You know what I mean? Like I don't even think Rampage Jackson is signed to Bellator anymore, right? Like what can you get out of Rampage Jackson, to be honest with you, right? There's nothing. So I don't think he's signed anymore. I think they're kind of like filtering out a lot of the older fighters that are not going to pretty much produce anything for the company. Like there's nothing you could add. There's no benefit for you to be there. So it's going to be interesting to see who stays and who leaves. Everybody's talking about the UFC cutting fighters, but what about Bellator? Bellator is going to end up cutting these fighters too, man. Like where are they going to go? Like are they going to filter through and go back to the regional scene? What's going to happen with them, right? So we got to see it and wait, because it's not like everybody's focused on the cuts by Bellator. Everybody's focused on the cuts by the UFC. But yeah, I feel like a lot of these guys, hey, you could even, to be honest with you, you could even put Gegard Mousasi in this tournament because he fights at light heavyweight, right? Sometimes. So let's see. You know what I mean? Maybe you could put him in there. I think that's something that Bellator would possibly do. But anyways, yeah. At the end of the day, Yoel leaving the UFC, good for him. You know what I mean? Like there's nowhere else to go for him. You know what I mean? He could have went to 205, but really, I'm pretty sure the UFC wanted to cut him, like cut his pay at least. And he probably didn't want to take lesser money. So he wanted to leave. Rumble Johnson, probably the same thing. So yeah, let's see. I think it's exciting times for Bellator. I'm loving what they're doing. I'm loving the the trajectory of their plans, and I'm excited to see what happens in 2021, because I feel like there's going to be more eyes on Bellator now because of these additions. I'm all down for it, man. I'm down for like the growth of MMA. The growth of MMA is crazy, but the growth of MMA is is like faster now with the pandemic.
Yeah,
Am I
John,
crazy?
Fiolot's asking, what do you think it would take for Bellator to be a household name? They're gonna keep making signings like this, or
Yeah, they
keep
gotta
doing that?
keep. Yeah, that's the two things that they need to do. They gotta keep making these signings, these high profile signings, and they gotta build up their stars that they have right now. Who is like AJ McKee? You got Aaron Pico. You got Pitbull. You got who's the bantamweight champ? Oh yeah, Archuleta. You got Patchy Mix, you know what I mean? And there's don't forget, they're still doing some things with Ryzen. You know what I mean? Like it's not like Ryzen's not still working with them, and Ryzen's doing big things too. So, once the borders open up, I see these guys uh putting on massive shows, man. And then Bellator signed uh the what is it, Kana Watanabe. They signed her to the flyweight division. There's gonna be a lot of cross promotion stuff going on. I'm excited for what they got, man. What they got
Do you
in
do you think
store.
they have to promote themselves better? This is Denise is saying that. What do you think
I
about
think everybody
Bellator's
can
promotion
promote
skills?
themselves. I think everybody can promote themselves better. But the thing is, you got the UFC and the machine that the UFC is, where they already established themselves so high up, and they're so ahead of everybody to where everybody thinks like Bellator is not doing a good job promoting themselves, or One Championship is not doing a good job. But really, they're probably doing decent amounts of work to kind of make steps into that direction of promoting themselves better. But they do need to bring something different, and Bellator's working on that, and I see them doing that. You know what I mean? As somebody in the media, I see Bellator working on that. I see that One Championship is trying to do certain things different than Bellator or the UFC, because the UFC is kind of etched themselves in the game, and they kind of went a certain path, and they feel, and they're also like they don't want to change. If you notice that, right? Dana White doesn't want to change anything. He's just adjusting to what the climate of the world. But other than that, he's not changing anything. Like just little simple things, like even the walkouts, right? Like Dana White doesn't want to change none of that stuff, right? Even if he's not going to change like those little details, he's not changing nothing. And I don't even think that the UFC is going to even add weight divisions. Like all these people are talking about, oh, they need to add weight division. I don't think they're adding any weight divisions. They're cutting fighters. How are you going to add a weight division when you're cutting fighters, when you're releasing them at the end of the year? That's not going to happen. But
I agree, Luke Lopez. That is a dope hat you got there, John. Wayne's
yeah,
World.
Wayne's World, classic. Michael Myers.
How many hats have you got? Every time we do a show, it's a different hat.
I don't know. I got like maybe 20 hats or something, right? So just adding more to the collection. I bought this hat for $5, man.
God, where'd you keep them all?
I have this case, this bag case thing where you put hats in, and my wife bought it, so she's.
I had about 10 hats, and they all went moldy because I just left them out in the open. I didn't realize
you gotta. Yeah, the mold is like a serious thing in Asia. Like people don't know, but mold is a serious thing.
Yeah, it ruined my my suit. The only suit I have I spent a lot of money on that. It's completely succumbed to mold.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of things succumb to mold, but like that's the benefits of having a wife that is like upset. Like she is like OCD, so like she has to have everything cleaned. If you ever come and visit my house, man, I'm telling you,
can you get your wife on the show? Can she give me some mold tips, anti-mold?
No, she's not gonna come on the show, man.
All right, well, moving gears, let's have a little look at this. Tony Ferguson, I think, is a fun one to look at. He just posted about an hour ago on his Instagram. I'm gonna try and bring it up on screen. Gotta find it first. Tony Ferguson, yeah, he just talking about his loss to Charles Oliveira. I feel like it's the first time he's spoken since he lost, so that's why we'll cover it. Yeah, he's been showing off that arm bar, right? He talks about the arm bar, where I was surprised he managed to continue fighting. I don't know how he didn't tap to that arm bar. It looked like his arm bent backwards. He seems to be getting some cupping treatment on it. Here, he's posted all the pictures for us on his Instagram.
So what does he say?
Yeah, typical Tony. Doesn't really make much sense, but I'll try and make sense of it. I'll read it out, and there's some pictures of his food for you as well. Classic Tony. He says, no excuses. I felt flat. I went out and welcomed the attack instead of defend. The warm-up time in the back for UFC hasn't been the same since pre-COVID. Still, no excuses. Times change, and so do people. The time from the hotel to the UFC Apex is much more condensed, and the aggressive level we needed was not reached. My fault, 100. After the fight, we were checked by doctors, went back to the hotel. I felt it was in order to hit pads, spar immediately because the fight was fresh in my mind and blood circulation in my arm was needed. I really needed to figure out what the effing problem was from the fight. Solution, pre-fight time management. Chuck was looking to take my back or go for the armbar. As soon as we hit the mat, I didn't worry about the mount. Kid was slick, but so am I. I was looking for the knockout standing and dashed from bottom position once we hit jits transitions. It was fun fighting against a wet blanket, aka heavy pressure opponent. Mark my words, that scenario won't happen again, period. My arm is all right. The arm bar was really tight. I thought of my son, his ability to be able to double joint his elbow during that sequence, and my mental capacity to endure pain got me through it. Yeah. What do you make of that, John? He says no excuses, but then he makes a bunch of excuses. Are they valid excuses?
Well, I think he's just trying to be open with the fans, you know what I mean? Like he's just trying to show himself and not stay silent and and show everybody like, hey, this is what happened. This is how I feel, man. If it's excuses, it's excuses, man. If it shows that he sees the faults in what he has done, right? And before this matchup, before this card, before this fight, I was telling. Remember when we did the podcast with Dan Tom? I was concerned for two reasons, right? The first reason was overtraining, right? And the second reason was he doesn't have a coach, like a head coach or any kind of coach. He just has training partners. He's his own coach. And hopefully with this fight, he realizes that he needs to have a coach. He needs to have coaches, right? To see things that he doesn't see, and kind of organize his training to where it it's championship level. I think like there's many fighters that have lost back-to-back fights and then they look like they were dead in the grass and they've come back and become champions again or become a champion. So people jumping off the bandwagon right now on Tony Ferguson, you guys, man, that's sad that you're going to jump off the bandwagon. This guy is one of the most exciting guys that has ever entered the octagon. And when he was riding that 12 fight win streak, everybody's like, "Oh, he's the next, he's the greatest, he's the most exciting." He's still exciting, man. He just didn't have the performance that he needed to have. And he said he's going to make the adjustments. So you need to wait and see. Wait and see what he can do. You know what I mean? If he loses 3, 4, 5 in a row, then I could understand you guys kind of, saying jumping off the bandwagon and saying that he needs to really consider what the next steps of his career. But to be honest with you, I feel like Tony, his mental strength and somewhat instability is going to help him moving forward. I feel this way. I feel like this guy is a madman, and when you're a madman, you're gonna be obsessed with certain things, and he's probably gonna watch that fight over and over and over again until he's just realizes that he needs to make some changes and hopefully move forward with that. And I'm excited. Like I said, if he doesn't fight at lightweight, good for him. Go up to welterweight and fight some of the guys up there. You know what I mean? There's uh, a lot of great matchups. But if he stays at lightweight, there's still time for him. I feel like, especially with Habib out. You know what I mean? I could see Tony coming back from this. I feel sorry for Tony a bit, like Tower Willie 8 rounds straight and 15 rounds straight. Maybe COVID has messed him up. You know what I mean? Maybe the COVID era of doing things has messed him up. I don't know, but
Well, let's look at like what Dana said, because this said a lot to me. I think Dana is unsure of Ferguson's future. MMA Junkie had these quotes from Dana. I think they're from the press conference. Yeah, I thought we were going to see the old Tony, Dana said. I thought the last fight he was affected by weight cutting. We were going to see the old Tony. 10 out of 10 people tapped to that armbar. The fact he even made it through the armbar is unbelievable and just a testament to how tough and durable and crazy Tony Ferguson is. Of course, that's possible. The idea that Tony's past his prime. But Tony needs to go home, spend the holidays with his family, and take some time off and think about what he wants to do next year. And we'll see what's next for him. Yeah, I think the number one thing for me, Tony Ferguson needs to take a little bit of time. I didn't really want to see him fight again this year. I know he just wanted to get that Gaethje loss out of there, get back in there and try and get a win before the year was out. I feel he could have waited a bit longer. I don't like to see guys come back so soon after taking such huge head trauma. But do you remember, John? I think Khabib gave an interview to ESPN or someone, and they asked him about Tony, and he said he's never going to be the same fighter again. He took way too much damage against Gaethje. He'll fight someone, and then that person will beat him. And Khabib seemed to be right in that regard. But do you think the Gaethje fight was just a little too much? He took so much damage. Is Ferguson changed forever?
I don't think so. I don't think he's changed forever, because we've seen fighters go through that, and we've seen the same narrative that people are saying that you took too much damage during this one particular fight, and now he's not going to be the same again. And then those fighters come back and fight and continue fighting, right? They'll win and they'll lose, and they'll never get to the point to where they were a champion again, but they continue fighting and show like snippets of their old self in certain fights. So I don't believe that even though Tony will be 37 next year, one thing that I agree on is him taking some time off, like you guys said, like Dana said, like you said. I think that that's perfect. Take some time off. Don't even really train that much. You know what I mean? I think sometimes fighters need that. They need to kind of just step away and not train. Maybe just do a couple cardio sessions a week and strength and conditioning. And because like the skill set is there. We know that. We've seen it throughout the years that Tony Ferguson, skill wise, highest level that you can be at, right? In every aspect. So he just needs to step back, take some time with his family, take some time and just enjoy some other stuff in his life outside of fighting, and then maybe come back in like the summertime and face somebody that's, in the bottom half of the 15, the top 15, face somebody. And no matter what happens, when Tony comes back, people are going to be excited for him, man. Like all these people jumping off the bandwagon and feeling sorry for Tony Ferguson. There's no need for that, man. He knows what he's doing. He's a fighter, man. He understands this. And if he would have won this fight, then everybody would have been like, "Oh, this is the old Tony." He's only on a 2-fight losing streak. Come on. He just came off the 12-fight winning streak. How can you just jump off so quickly, right? Even Dana White too. Like, what is he talking about? You know what I mean? Like, his durability is gone. Of course, he's been through many wars, right? But we've seen him continue to truck on and adjust. So let's see what happens in his next fight. And if he doesn't look like his old self, or even any snippets of his own self in his next fight, then I feel like we could talk about him losing a step or whatever, or taking too much damage in the Justin Gaethje fight. Like maybe he needs to take, like I said, he needs to take some time off. So I feel maybe he needs to take like the first half of 2021 and just relax, man. Just chill out. I think chilling out, it helps a lot of people. It helps a lot of fighters, and they get that hunger back.
John, every fan was not on the bandwagon. I was never a Tony fan, says Denise.
Oh,
There you go.
damn. You're the fan of Tony. Why? That dude had some insane fights, man. Like, he's beat some of the best ever at lightweight. Like, guys that are champions. Like, you never was, you didn't like his craziness. I know he's had some weird moments, like in the Tough House. He had that moment where he was like, "Where's your kids?" And then, like the tiramisu and him wearing baseball gloves, and like that's him, man. Like, that's, like being a fighter. I think like fighters, you could kind of compare them to like actors. Like actors, they're not they're not just regular people. There are actors that are regular people when you meet them, but a lot of them, they're not regular people. They're just unique in their own way. And there's
Denise
Denise. Why
always
I
hated
hated
his
it. Sloppy.
sloppy, no defense striking style. I like more technical fighters.
All
Wow.
right.
Yeah, would you say Tony is sloppy, John?
You could use that word. You could use that word. He's sloppy, but then you could twist that word, and you could use the word as unique, right? You could twist that
Yes.
word and make it positive and say he's unique, and he's like, instead of saying no defense, you could say he's purely offensive striking style. Like
Yeah.
you could twist it, right? Like, but yeah, I see what you're saying, Denise. Like, it's you're not lying. I mean, he does
For
look
me,
kind of wild at times.
my take is that the division just leveled up a little bit. And Tony is one of the old guard, but now there's just guys who are better than him, and he's not going to be able to beat them. And it's what happens to every fighter. Every division in the UFC just gets better and better, I think, and it happens in other promotions as well. It's just a sad fact, and through no fault of Tony's own. He should have got that title shot a long time ago. I think it's never going to happen again. Very sad for him there. Do you still want to see him fight? You want to go up to welterweight? You were talking the other day. Is that still something for
Yeah, I
Tony?
would like to see him go up to welterweight. Maybe the weight cut has kind of allowed him to sustain more damage than he should, and maybe without that weight cut, he'd be better at welterweight. Even if he fights at lightweight, like, I'll watch him fight. What I mean, at lightweight or welterweight, it doesn't matter to me. But with these cuts, with these like cuts that are happening, like at the end of the year, who knows, man? Tony Ferguson might get cut. You know what I mean? Maybe the UFC's tired of, like dealing with him, or maybe we don't know things about how he's working, because he's been very transparent in his interviews about the UFC, right? Like how he wants to get paid more and he's not getting what he deserves. He's been transparent, right? So maybe the UFC lets him go too. And we might not ever see him fight in the UFC again. I don't know. We don't know until the next couple of weeks what happens with a lot of these fighters. But it's interesting, man. I feel like next week's card too, Vegas 17, UFC Vegas 17, there's a lot of high profile names right there, and they're facing off against like the up and coming fighters. We don't know what's going to happen with them if they lose too. We're just going to have to wait and find out. But
surely they wouldn't cut Tony, though. I mean, the guy saved the day.
Well, we said that about Rumble Johnson too. Or like, but that was a shock in a way, right? Like Rumble Johnson left the UFC. No one was expecting that. Everybody's like, Rumble Johnson's coming back. He's gonna fight John Jones. He's gonna fight, all these like matchups. Everybody was like drooling over. And then what happened? Boom! One day we could wake up, and Rumble Johnson signed to Bellator.
I just think Dana owes Tony Ferguson so much for doing that fight with Gaethje after the Khabib fight fell through. The first show back, Tony really, really stepped up there. Didn't have to take that fight. He did. He lost, and now his career has completely gone another way. And that would be really, really harsh if the UFC cut Tony. I hope they do not do that. Just it would be a real sour, bitter taste for me. Sepiolot left a comment here. Recency bias. Yeah, do you think this is recency bias, John? People jumping off the bandwagons. Sepiolot says, I feel it's huge for individual sports. Jumping on and off bandwagons is just a part of that territory. Yeah, you get this a lot, don't you?
Yeah, it's completely true. I even do it sometimes, you know what I mean? Like I forget about, like I have terrible memory, right? Like I can remember people's faces. Like if I met you somewhere, I'll remember your face pretty easily. But
that's nice to know.
I don't remember names, man. Like I'll forget people's names all the time. Like seriously, like I'll forget, like I even saw a certain fight, like my memory's shot. I don't know why, but it is, like, it's crazy.
Denise agrees with me on that. Yeah, I think Tony's gotten a raw deal there. Anyway, why don't we talk about, you just mentioned there the next card, the last UFC card of the year, and let's talk about Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy. He's had some fun comments, hasn't he, about Khamzat Chimaev. I'll bring that up on screen, but yeah, what the gist of this, Stephen Thompson, probably the nicest man in MMA, definitely in the top 5. He's unhappy with Khamzat's push. Says it's a slap in the face to everybody who's worked their butts off. What do we make of this, John, in MMA fighting?
I agree. I agree. It is a slap in the face of a lot of fighters in that division. And I'm glad, like, even though Stephen Thompson is like one of the nicest guys in the sport, it's good to see that he's being, open about like how he feels about Khamzat Chimaev. And and I would feel the same way if I was a fighter, you know what I mean? But then at the same time, I understand that for some reason he had, like, Dana White believes he has this star power. And if I say for some reason, I mean like there is a reason, right? And I kind of see some of the reasons why, you know what I mean? Like he's shown that he's a monster. He can talk, he's a guy that's going to call out everybody, but in a way it's like it is a slap in everybody's face.
Let me just I'll read these comments quickly. Sorry, it was to MMA Junkie, these quotes, but MMA Fighting have written the article on those quotes. So Thompson told MMA Junkie, I think he was ranked number 15, which didn't make sense to me. I know he's had one fight in the welterweight division, and his opponent, Reese McKee, is 0-2 right now, and normally a lightweight at 155. So it just doesn't make sense how this guy can jump past everybody who's worked their behinds off to get where they're at. And now he's ranked number 15, fighting the number 3 guy, I believe. It's just ridiculous to me. I had to fight through murderer's road to get where I'm at, and so did Leon Edwards. He was on an 8-fight winning streak to get where he's at. I had to fight a slew of guys. I mean, tough opponents: Robert Whittaker, Jake Ellenberger, Rory McDonald, Johnny Hendricks, to get where I'm at. And then this guy just jumps past everybody. I think it's a slap in the face to everybody who's worked their butts off. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a slap. Like I've asked a few welterweights that I've interviewed about this. Like, what do you think? And Diego Lima, he said he didn't care. Yeah, yeah. You're right to be like, that's all he needs to say. I smash you. Nick Diaz, I smash you. Nate Diaz, I smash you. Right? That's all you need to say. You don't really need to say anything. He's kind of like writing off Habib's little phrases, man. I think that that's all Khamzat needs to do is just copy Habib's phrases and just add names to them.
Well, this is the other quote in the interview says, I guaranteed he's probably going to get a title shot if he beats Leon Edwards. And I kind of called this. Thompson said, I was wondering why they're pushing Khamzat so hard. And I was like, watch Habib retire because they're from the same neck of the woods. They've got to please that market. So it kind of makes sense why they're pushing him so hard. Do you think this is the plan, John, to get that new Habib in there if Habib does retire?
He makes a good point there. I don't know if that's true or not, but he does make a good point about like the market, because at the end of the day, like going back to my Diego Lima, he said he didn't care about Khamzat, and because he knows that this is a business, and in this business, in this entertainment business, in this fight business, um, that's what's gonna happen, man. There's gonna be certain guys that push you, and he's not worried about it. He's just focused on himself because at the end of the day, he doesn't know when he's gonna be fighting for the UFC and when he's not gonna be fighting for the UFC. So it's just a waste of time to just, you know, to think about Khamzat. And in a way, he's right, but then at the same time, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is speaking a lot of truth right there, man. It's pretty insane, like what Hamzat has done, you know what I mean, and how he has favored and gotten into the ear of Dana White and kind of pushed that hard, and now he's fighting the number one contender in the division, man, and he hasn't even fought anybody ranked in that top 15, which is weird, man. I feel like I'm living in this like altered universe where if you just have good friends, if your friends are Dana White, like you get whatever the hell you want. You just gotta win fights, and that could be a possibility, man. I like what Wonderboy Thompson was saying about the title shot. I believe so, man. I believe if he beats Leon Edwards, he's gonna get a title shot, man. He's just it's just gonna happen. And you could talk all kinds of nonsense about it, but it's possibly gonna happen. Of course, Diego doesn't care. He's nowhere near the top. Well, like I think like Khamzat should have been fighting someone like Diego Lima at welterweight, right? Diego Lima's like at least in the top 30 in the welterweight division, right? Khamzat jumped from like I don't even know what ranking to 15 by beating Reese McKee. So it's like a never ending topic, right? Like, does Khamzat deserve what he's getting? And it's hard to justify that he does deserve it, but it seems like he has some kind of star power, man. Like, and I feel like when the UFC pushes that narrative, people start to believe it. And for us that watch the sport closely, we don't believe it. And some of us that watch the sport closely, they believe it, right? I think Aaron Bronstetter was on here talking about Khamzat, and he believed that he deserved that 15 ranking, right? From like what his potential is and stuff like that. I don't really remember exactly what he said, but I remember that he was pushing that narrative. And that's somebody in the media, somebody has a big voice, and he's pushing that. And me, I don't want to push that. I feel like he should have beat like at least 2 or 3 more guys, like a Diego Lima. You know what I mean? Like a Alex Morono, who's fighting Anthony Pettis next. Like those are the guys that Khamzat should have been fighting next, not Leon Edwards. But the UFC, once they put that machine behind you, man, people start to believe and believe, and it's the casual fans.
Denise saying Hamzat does not deserve the push or the number 15 ranking. If he beats Leon, I will be on the train. Until then, I am not on that train.
Yes. Like
Yes,
me,
agree
I've
fully.
never been on trains. Like Nick knows me. Like I'm never on any trains. You
You
know,
took the
like
train. You took the train to Busan from Seoul, didn't you?
exactly. Like that's the only train I'm on. And there was no
Yeah.
zombies on that train. So
uh, for me, Hamza, yeah, he's got a fast track, hasn't he?
he
Let's see
does.
what he can do against Leon. Maybe he should fight Kevin Holland next week. You
Yeah,
think that's gonna happen?
but the thing is, like now Kevin Holland's in the position where he could fight somebody else that's even bigger than Hamzat. You know what I mean? Like I feel like and Kevin Holland is what? Is he one he's 185, right? So I think he
Yeah,
should just focus. I don't even think he should um be even like talking about Hamzat. But what's smart about Kevin Holland is he knows if he mentions Hamzat's name, like he gets more hits, like he makes more headlines. And that's one thing great about Kevin Holland. He's a great fighter, but on top of that, he understands the media game. He understands like who he needs to call out. He understands like how to call them out and when to call them out. And that's what I love about Kevin Holland on top of his fighting, man, that he understands that. Because whenever you talk about Hamzat, he gets hits, man. Like Europe, he's huge. I don't know about North America. In Asia, he's probably nobody really knows about him too much, but in Europe, he's huge. So whenever you put something up about him, he gets clicks. There's no doubt about that. Even if it's someone else talking about him. So Kevin Holland doing a great job, but I don't see him fighting Hamza anytime soon. I feel like Kevin Holland's going to get a big fight in the first quarter of next year at 185. And it's going to be the biggest test of his career, and it's going to be fun to watch him.
all right, let's move on again. Quick question first from Sepulot. You guys think Dana's trying to get Bellator to bolster its roster to help with their class action lawsuit, accusing them of being a monopoly? Well, that would be some 4D chess right there, I think, John.
Yeah, I don't know too much about this class action lawsuit, and maybe I should know much more about it, but I don't know much about it. And man, like in this world of conspiracies and vaccines and all kind of flat Earth and all that stuff, I wouldn't put it past Dana White or the UFC, in what they're doing. Why not? You know what I mean? Like if it's gonna help them with the class action lawsuit, why would you not do it? So I don't have nothing else to say about it, man. It's like I can't dig deep into this. I'm not a professional at these lawsuits, and I'm not, to be honest, I'm not following it too closely. Maybe I should be. Maybe I probably should be following it very close, but I'm not. Like, there's so much other stuff going on, right? That it's just that's like the farthest from my mind right now.
All right, let's have a quick look at the Manel Cape. I think you wanted to talk about next, John.
Yeah,
Manel was back up for the 256 main event, I believe, in case either guy fell out. So what's going on with Manel Cape?
yeah. Manel Kape, man, like he had 2 fights scheduled, both of them fell through. So basically, he went through a couple camps, never got to fight, and then the UFC decided to have him uh, be the backup fighter for Figueiredo and Moreno. And so he went out there to Vegas, finished his training camp, weighed in, and basically waited for someone to fall out. And it almost happened, right? Because Figueiredo was in the hospital the night before the fight until 2 a.m. with some kind of stomach infection or stomach problems or something like that. So that could have been a possibility, but it never happened. And no one, and they didn't give him the treatment. You know what I mean? Like, why didn't you give him the treatment like you gave Michael Chandler? You know what I mean? Like, you put him on the embedded. Put him on something. You know what I mean? Like, give him some camera time. Like he's going out there and making weight and pretty much being the Superman if the main event fell through, and you guys give him nothing, man. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is the UFC doing? Like, they need to promote Manel Kape. Manel Kape is one of the best flyweights, bantamweights in the world, and he hasn't even competed for the UFC yet. So I don't know This goes back to the question about Khamzat and like them pushing him. They need to push Manel, man. Manel, he can represent many different regions of this world, like Africa. He could push like Asia. He trains out in Thailand, right? He's been out there for years now. He's from and he's got the European market too, where I think he lived in Portugal for a big part of his a life. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's confusing to me. But then the thing is, like, I was thinking, like, okay, he doesn't step in. Maybe he's gonna get the next title shot because he did come in there and as a replacement. But now Dana White's talking about he wants Figueiredo and Moreno to rematch. So where do you put Cape? Like, who does he fight? You know what I mean? Does he wait? No, you got to match him up with somebody, right? So this is my solution to Cape. For Cape, I say Cape fights either he fights Alex Perez or Cody Garbrandt. I feel like those are the matchups that you need to make. Alex Perez coming off a title shot, he lost. I feel like Cape, if he's going to prove himself against anybody to get that next title shot, it would be a guy coming off, a title shot. So you put him against Alex Perez, or you put him against Cody Garbrandt, high profile. They do go back and forth. Manel's not afraid to talk trash, and I love that about Manel. Manel is like unfiltered. Like, I've interviewed him a few times, unfiltered. He'll say whatever he thinks, and he kind of gives me the Peter Yan vibes. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of like fighter he is. He gives me the Peter Yan vibes. Like, he's not afraid of anybody. He'll say what's on his mind, and whenever he goes out there to fight, he's gonna put everything on the line and perform really well. And I'm very excited to see him in the octagon, man. I don't understand like why they couldn't find a replacement for him when the guys fell out.
Some comments here from the chat. Chris saying that Yuri and Manel have not really got the push of Mike Chandler, but they don't really do it with Cage Warriors or KSW champions who come over. Maybe it's a North American bias. Denise saying most fans didn't even know he was supposed to fight Pantoja this Saturday and didn't know who he was when he weighed in. The UFC played him. Dana even said, "Who?" when the reporter asked about him. LOL. Wow, did he? I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. That's crazy. You see, like, you see Dana White, he's pushing that narrative, like the Figueiredo thing. Remember in the post fight, he's all like saying, "Oh, that was the greatest fight in flyweight history," and they're asking him like, this flyweight division was dead, and then now it's back alive and it's exciting, more exciting than ever. And I don't understand like that type of question too. Like, how was that, dude? The flyweight division has been exciting for a long time. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's been more exciting than ever. Like, they forget about like that recency bias, man. Like, they forget about what Demetrius Johnson did, man. He finished a lot of guys as the champion. You know what I mean? Like, he's never taken pretty much almost any damage, right? In the UFC. If you look at it, all of his fights as the champion, like, he barely took any damage. Even when he lost the title, like, he didn't have any damage. Like, I think he did more damage to Cejudo in that fight. So it's just weird, man. Like, how, like, he's saying like Mick Maynard, he made all these adjustments. Why didn't they make these adjustments when Demetrius Johnson was the champion? Like, did you even think about that? Like, I don't understand what Mick Maynard did differently. Like, he signed a couple different fighters, and why didn't you do that when DJ was champion? Like, we could have seen some incredible matchups, right? It's weird to me, like how everything flips flops, but everybody flip flops. Dana White flip flops. You know what I mean? I flip flop all the time. So it's like, like it's you're just reacting to like what they said last. You know what I mean? It's all like it's all recency bias, right? It's all whatever what you did the last time. So it is what it is.
Thank you, John, says Denise. The disrespect is real when it comes to Demetrius Johnson's reign. He had an exciting fight with Dodson.
He did. I think Dodson cracked him a few times in that fight, and Johnson, Johnson, he what is it? He came back right after he got cracked by Dodson. Man, that was a great fight, and people forget about that easy. And they forget about how exciting Dodson was too. just because he's not doing so great as of late. But yeah, that was fun. That was a fun fight. Now we're gonna have Demetrius Johnson tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna have DJ on the SCMP One live show. We'll get into that, I guess, at the end.
Yeah, towards the end. But what is it? I just tuned in. Did you say how you thought Manel Kape would do against UFC competition? No, we're just saying like he's one of the best flyweights, bantamweights in the world, and I'm excited to see him fight. How he would do against UFC competition. I think he will do well, but we won't know until he actually steps in there and faces off. But I'm glad the UFC has decided to throw him into the deep end right away, because I feel like he's cut his teeth in Ryzen, and he's faced a lot of top competition and always in enemy territory. Like, he's never fought as like the hometown favorite. So he's used to that. He's used to just flying to locations and fighting and performing and in front of like 20,000, fans that are not really his fans, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think he does well, but we won't know for sure. Of course we want to see Horiguchi Kape too, man. Of course we want to see that. Like, who doesn't want to see that? Who doesn't want Horiguchi to go back to the UFC and compete against some of the top guys over there? You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't want to see that? He trains with like almost all of the top bantamweight flyweights right now at American Top Team. I would love to see that happen, but most likely that's not going to happen. I think Horiguchi's kind of like Demetrius Johnson. Like, he's never going to go back to the UFC no matter what happens. I think he's comfortable fighting where he's fighting and doing his thing. So, and he's had all the belts except for the UFC belt. He had the Ryzen belt, he had the Bellator belt, but he didn't have the UFC belt. I don't think that even matters for him. It goes back to the whole idea of what are your goals as a fighter in the sport? Do you want to be a UFC champion, or do you want to make money in other promotions? It all depends, right?
Do you think Chris is saying maybe there were just too many Americans in the division when DJ was on top? Only Bogatinov and Horiguchi, not from the US, on the 11-fight title run.
I don't think so. I feel like DJ was fighting all the contenders. Like, he was a champion that was fighting all the contenders. Like, he wasn't out there like, I want to fight this guy, I want to fight this guy. DJ was just fighting whoever the UFC wanted him to fight. That's basically what the narrative was. You know what I mean? Like, what was going on at that time. So it didn't matter who they brought in, he was going to fight him. And when Henry Cejudo came to fight him, he fought him and fought him in the rematch. Demetrius Johnson could have said, oh, he doesn't deserve the rematch, but no, he just fought him. And he lost, but it didn't bother him too much, man. He's just like, all right, see ya. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I left my legacy with the UFC. See ya. Now I'm gonna go to one championship and create another one. So, and he's already started. He won the Grand Prix. So we'll see what happens if he wins that title next against Moraes.
Arthur Antonio Nguyen saying it's a shame Horiguchi won't come back since he wants to revitalize Japan's MMA scene. Yeah, you put him in the same boat as DJ, don't you, John? Neither's coming back.
Yeah, and great for Horiguchi, man. He puts that on his shoulders to not even revitalize. It's revitalized now, right? It's like it's to continue his reign as one of the best in the world in his country. You know what I mean? And I respect him for that. You know what I mean? Not a lot of guys are doing that, and he's doing that. He's putting it on, and it's great that Ryzen has a platform for him to do it. And I could see Horiguchi going to Bellator too eventually, like in the next year or so, to fight over there a couple times.
Yeah, Chris pointing out that 7 of the 10 now are not from the US. Maybe just part of the bigger trend of internationalization. I hope I got that right. Yeah, it is something we've seen, isn't it, John? There's only how many American champs now in the UFC? Chris is always banging on about it, but whereas once it was pretty much all from America, now you've got so many countries represented. How many have we got actually from the US? Stipe. Guess you can put Usman there. It's not, but you got Peter Yan is Russia.
Yeah.
Valentina is what?
Kyrgyzstan.
Amanda Nunes, Brazil.
Mhm.
Figueiredo, Brazil. Light heavyweight, Jan Blachowicz, Poland. Middleweight is, we did
Adesanya.
Adesanya, Nigeria, Kiwi. Featherweight, Australia, Alex Volkanovski. You get my drift. It's
Yeah, so you only have Stipe. But the thing is, like, if that's true, like that the UFC is trying to be more international, then why don't they promote a lot of the international guys? But maybe it's reversed now. Like now they're trying to promote some of the North American fighters because they want to kind of balance out the scales. That could be a possibility. I have no idea. But yeah, it does help them that they do have a certain amount of champions that are American champions or even Canadian champions. Um, maybe that's what they're going to work towards in 2021 is to kind of push more North American fighters to be a champion. Because if you notice, like a lot of the challengers have been North American challengers. Like Alex Perez, he's North American, right? He's American Mexican descent. What is it? Moreno, he's Mexican, right? So like Mexican descent, North America. Yeah. So if you look at a lot of the challengers, possibly like Dominic Reyes, American, like when he fought for the title against Jan Blachowicz. Maybe that's true. Maybe they're working towards that, and that's why they're trying to promote Michael Chandler because Michael Chandler is North American, and he's from North America, and they need certain champions to go out there to do interviews on ESPN, Sports Centers, and all that. Because Michael Chandler would be perfect for all of that. If you notice Michael Chandler, he is very, very good on the mic. Like what I interviewed him or I did a presser when he fought in Bellator last year in Japan. That guy, he has an answer to every question. Like there's no hesitation. Like he knows what to say. His mind is sharp, man. And I think that he could become a huge star if he becomes a champion in the UFC. And there's a big if there, but if he does, he's gonna be really famous, man. That guy, you could put him on GQ, you could put him anywhere, man. This guy knows what to do. He's just very well versed in media, all of that stuff.
of course I forgot to mention Zhang Wei Li, Chinese champion of strawweight division. Yeah, I feel maybe there's a pushback towards America at the moment, North America, because they are kind of stuck there, aren't they, for most of the year in Vegas, and they need to use local fighters. So it's a bit of a counterbalance.
Fight Island, man.
Fight Island, yeah. But you tend to get more shows in Vegas, don't you? They did 16. How many Fight Island? They did 2 runs, maybe about 10 shows there. 9.
17, counting this week's
17
fight card.
coming next year, yeah.
Vegas. I don't know how many Fight Islands. A bunch of them because there a lot of pay-per-view out there too. But I think it's just gonna be more of that next year. The UFC, I think they said that they broke all records for everything this year, and I could believe it. You know what I mean? Like imagine there's no sports. Like everybody's watching the UFC a little bit more, right? And the numbers must be insane. Because certain pay-per-views that they did, like let's say this last pay-per-view 256, right? If you did that on a non-pandemic era, I don't feel like it would sell as much, not even close. But people are at home, they want to be entertained, they're gonna buy it, man. I think that plays a huge factor in what's going on. So
Antonio also asking about talking about international. What do you think about Georgian takeover? Asked the men. Do you mean the amount of Georgians coming into the UFC and MMA?
yeah, they're monsters, man.
Yeah.
They're gonna be players in the next couple of years. There's gonna be a lot of great fighters coming out of Georgia, and we're just starting to see it. And I feel like this pandemic era has helped a lot of them guys get opportunities too. So hopefully they get on that Fight Island cards next year and perform very well. But yeah, they're exciting, man. What's his name? Gige. Is it Giga? Giga, right? Giga Chikazi, right?
Yeah.
Chikazi. Giga. Man, that guy's a monster, man. I've talked to coaches and they're telling me, coaches like MMA coaches, striking coaches, they're telling me this guy is going to be a title challenger. This guy is possibly could be a champion. That's how dangerous he is. Like his skill set is like it's getting so well rounded to where he's going to be a problem for a lot of dudes, and we're just going to start seeing him take out some top contenders. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Serpielot says him and his buddies were willing to watch Khabib beat Gaethje on a Saturday night, but any non-COVID weekend we would have been at a party or the club. And them need to go hang with Serpielot if I'm in Canada.
Is exactly right. A lot of these guys or girls or whoever, couples or whatever, families or whatever, they're usually not together, right, in the same place, or they're usually out doing certain things, enjoying life at the club or a party or somewhere, right, some establishment. But now they're stuck at home. So what do? You could sleep, or if you want to watch sports, you watch the UFC, and it's what it is. That's what's going to happen. It's going to continue happening.
Luke Lopez asking how long until you guys think that fighting will go back to normal pre-COVID. I wonder if travel restrictions will be lifted in 2021 or we have to wait until 2022. I mean, personally, Luke, I'm not really imagining I'm going to be going to any shows probably until late next year, if not 2022. I don't know about you, John.
It's going to depend on like the vaccine, right? If the vaccine changes anything. If people say, okay, or government say like, okay, you took the vaccine, just show us proof that you took the vaccine and you can fly into this country. That could be a possibility, right? So that would force a lot of people to have to take the vaccine. Like I'm a guy that's like very wary of the vaccine. Like I don't know if that's gonna, it's 100% guaranteed or whatever, but I'm kind of scared of it in many ways, But then at the same time, I might have to forced to take it because of work or something, right? Like they won't allow you into some country or certain establishments. They won't even allow you outside unless you take the vaccine. Then you might have to take it, man. You'll be forced to take it. So if that happens, maybe, traveling will be allowed. And I'm pretty sure the airlines would be loving it, because then they would actually be able to have many people on flights. I wish something would change, to be honest with you, because man, I don't see it ever happening anytime soon. To me, to be completely honest.
Chris asking, who is your guys' comeback of the year in UFC? Do you mean comeback in a fight or comeback in a career?
I told you my memory's shot, so it's like it's hard to tell anything about who's this or who's that. I just know that
Jan Blachowicz. Maybe.
Jan Blachowicz. Yeah, that could be a comeback of the year.
Moreno got cut, didn't he, before, and now he just fought for a title, nearly won it.
Like fighter of the year, there's only basically two candidates. There's Kevin Holland and Figueiredo, right? Comeback of career, it's got to be Jan Blachowicz, right? Like that guy was like a journeyman basically a few years back, right? And now he's the champ. So,
who do you think, Chris? Drop us a comment there.
Exactly. Let's go to the Mark Hunt. Let's look at that. Mark. Come on, let's look at that. Because Mark Hunt, man.
I forgot you wanted to look at this. Sorry.
Yeah, let's check out Mark Hunt. I wanted to get
what is this?
That are joining us. I want to get your thoughts on the Mark Hunt situation right now. He's about to box a former rugby star, and there's some heat, man. There's some heat.
There's some way in chaos for Gallon Hunt. Okay, got it. Looks like some chaos going on.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I'm gonna have to turn the volume down because look at this. Look at this.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. You couldn't move me.
Oh, hook. He didn't even budge though. Dang, how could you not like Mark Hunt?
Good work. Thank you. Where's my backup? Hey, I held my ground. Ben Damon, he ended up over here behind the thing. He ended up over behind
I hope you got it.
I told you the weigh-in was going to be crazy. The fireworks are ready to go off. The talks happen. They want to get some action. It's going off tomorrow night. Be there or tune in live.
All right.
Well, the thing is, that could be fake. like that could just be Mark Hunt kind of playing up the face-offs and stuff, and you know why they're doing it is because they're trying to sell pay-per-views. They're trying to sell the fight, and that's one of the best ways is to tell people, to show people that that there's some beef there, right? So they've been talking trash back and forth, and hey, I'm rooting for Mark Hunt to win this fight, man. Like, I cannot root against Mark Hunt, man. Mark Hunt he's just Mark Hunt, man. Like, this guy has been fighting for like 90 years. He's fought some of the craziest some of the craziest fights you've ever seen. He's been in those fights. So go Mark Hunt, man. I can't deny it. And everybody that I've talked to that has trained with Mark Hunt or worked with Mark Hunt, it is a charity fight. It doesn't matter, man. They could be fighting for like bowls of rice. Like, they're gonna beef it up, right? They're gonna throw some teriyaki on it. So, so let's see it, man. Like, I'm gonna watch it. Like that card. Like, I don't really watch boxing too much, but I probably end up catching that Mark Hunt fight just to see if he knocks him out, or if Mark Hunt gets knocked out. Who knows? But I feel like they're gonna be brawling. Like, it's gonna be an insane brawl, and we're gonna probably end up seeing clips of the highlights somewhere on Twitter or Facebook. But yeah. So yeah, it's, I think it's fun, man. I think Mark Hunt is. I'm just waiting for Mark Hunt to sign with like another promotion, though. I think like he's a guy that he'll end up fighting MMA again someday. I don't know when, but I see him doing it. Or maybe he'll continue with the boxing and maybe box some celebrities or something.
All right. Well, Chris said he was throwing Brian Ortega into that chat for the best comeback of the year.
Yeah, of course, man. Brian Ortega.
Luke Lopez, thinks Dustin Poirier. He's had a good resurgence.
Yeah, imagine if that fight would have actually happened this year, him and Conor. If it would have headlined like 256 and then Dustin beat Conor, that would have been an insane comeback of that revenge too. That would have been cool too to watch.
Sepilot asking, when do you think the Conor promotional machine starts going full force? We're just over a month out from Conor v Dustin. I mean, they had the trailer out, didn't they, during UFC 256?
Exactly. That was just a little taste.
Maybe after Christmas they'll whip up a frenzy.
Yeah, I think that's why they're taking so much time off. Because they want to build that up right there. They want to build up Dustin versus Conor. They're going to build it up like no other. I think that's why they're doing it. They don't want anything ahead of that. I think there's a card ahead of that, but still, that card is just that card, and we're gonna see what happens.
If Conor loses, do we get a trilogy?
Yes, of course, man. Like, why would they not do a trilogy? If Dustin knocks out Conor, they're gonna do a trilogy. Like, I think that's gonna happen. If Dustin wins the fight, they're gonna do a trilogy, no matter what. If Conor goes out there and sparks Dustin, then I don't see that fight ever happen again. And do you think like if Conor goes out and sparks Dustin at lightweight, which is a totally different weight class, that kind of like he loses a lot of luster, Dustin? I don't think he'll lose fans, but I think like just looking at his overall career is just.
I think the opposite. It's gonna really shut anyone up who still doubts Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win for Conor McGregor in many aspects. We got Fight Night's picks.
Yeah, Fight Night picks. What's
Shout
up?
out to the boys out there. Fight Night's picks. Go to Fight Night's picks. Subscribe, like, share everything, man. For those guys are doing a phenomenal job, and they have a lot of content, man. Like I look at their page all the time. So and they
you had Craig on the show, didn't you? He's a great guy.
Craig, we love you. You are an anomaly. Anyways, what did you say? Fight
of the year. Like maybe we can do a fight of the year podcast or like a year-end awards or something. Get into it big there. We talk about it briefly here, I guess. Yeah, he's saying Josh Emmett, Shane Burgos. Do you think that's in the conversation, John, for fight of the year?
Oh, of course, man. Like I think that you should kind of separate that, like a 3-rounder versus a 5-rounder. If it's a 5-rounder fight, I still think that Zhang Wei Li versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the fight of the year. Like no questions asked, right?
So does Denise.
Yes. I'm gonna go back and actually watch that fight today, just to watch it again. It's so.
I watched it again with Chris recently, and I feel it wasn't as good the second time around. I know sometimes that happens. Let me know what you think.
Come on,
The drama and the suspense is all taken out, yeah, but
come on, Nick. All right. Anyways, yeah. There like if you look at the Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker fight, that was incredible too. Right?
yeah,
Like
Doo Ho Choi and Cub Swanson was 3 rounds, and that one fight of the year. So why not
yeah.
have
why not?
Burgos, Emmett, Zhang, JJ is definitely at the top. Says fight night picks, but it seems the conversation seems to sway 5 rounds over 3.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah, I
we got our guy Sasha Palatnikov and Luis Kosi. I think that's in the conversation if you're having, but I would say 3 rounds often defers to 5, doesn't it?
Well, that's
The
just
UFC's
favoritism. That's just plain
Yeah.
out favoritism right there.
That was
he
such
had
a
an
good
incredible
fight, though.
It was a
Yeah.
good fight, but I think it's different when you kind of know the people that they're fighting and then they win. Because would you
Yeah.
say that if he would have lost that fight, it would have kind of been a little bit different, right? In your mind, your memory. So yeah, but it was a great fight,
Maybe.
right? But the thing is, like, like people are saying that Figueiredo versus Moreno was like the fight of the year. I feel like there's a few fights that are much better than that fight. Like I feel like Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier was a better fight. Zhang Weili, of course, versus JJ is a much better fight than that. But yes, I think like it's probably top 5 of the year, maybe number 3. But there has been some crazy fights, man. Like even like Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson was a pretty insane fight too, right?
No, but I said this in our group chat. I said that was too one-sided for me to be. If my ingredients for a fight of the year, it's got to be, epic back and forth. That's why I do think, yes, Denise, I have huge bias towards Sasha, but that fight had so many swings and momentum, so much drama. You had shots to the back of the head. You had ref could have called it off in that first round. You had Sasha taking 2 nut shots. You had Sasha grabbing the fence. You had it's just up and down. 2 guys making their debut in the UFC. Sasha a plus 400 underdog. Sasha having COVID 2 weeks before. There was just so much drama and story going into that fight. That's interesting. Do you factor in that, John, in your pick for a fight of the year? The stuff outside of the fight, the circumstances and the emotion, does that come into play?
I think it plays a small part, but for normal people, they don't even know anything about that. They have no idea what was going on ahead of the fight, or they have no idea. They're just seeing the fight. So there's like different perspectives, right? Like there's guys or girls that are watching the sport that just turn on the pay-per-view and they have no idea what's going on. They just know that these fighters are coming in. They're 2 of the best in the world and they're competing, right? And then they get this gem, this chaos, right? For five rounds or 3 rounds, and it's great. And yeah, Hooker and Felder was a great fight too. But that's
for
the
me,
question that I want to ask Demetrius Johnson tomorrow. That's one of the questions I have locked in. Is like I want to ask him, like, okay, Dana White said Figueiredo and Moreno was fighter like the greatest fight in flyweight history, right? And I don't want to ask him like why it was the greatest fight, or does he think, I want to know like what is his criteria for like judging or picking a fight of the year? Like what is his criteria? And Nick, you're saying, like, you're making great points. Like, does all that factor in? And I want to know from DJ himself, right?
yeah.
That's why DJ is so interesting to talk to, man, because you could ask him anything and he'll just tell you the truth, even if you don't want to hear it.
Well, that's a good segue, John, to talk about that. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to be back. Actually, I've got to break this to you, John. DJ's got to move the time around slightly, so he needs to be earlier. So it's 9 a.m. for you. Is that still okay?
9 a.m. for me? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine. Don't worry about
Okay,
it.
it's 8 a.m. for me. So Nick is going to have to get an early night. Be up fresh for Demetrius Johnson, 8 a.m. Yeah, the schedule and the lineup has moved around a little bit. So I'll reveal the full lineup. I guess we can do it now.
Yeah.
Demetrius Johnson, 8 a.m. Hong Kong time, which is, God, 8, 7. Oh, someone do the maths for America.
Oh, it's 11. Oh, so it'd be like, 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry, 7 p.m. Eastern time.
All right.
For Demetrius Johnson.
Let me just bring up this little thing here. So we now have an empty slot there because we're gonna have to fill some time because Martin Nguyen is the second guest at 9:30
Yeah.
Singapore Hong Kong time. Working on Mei Yamaguchi at the behest of John. We should be able to get that fine. Then we're gonna have DJ's upcoming opponent Adriano Moraes at 10:15, the One Championship flyweight champ. We're gonna have Mr. Troy Worthen after Adriano 10:45. We just had Troy on the One Championship Virtual Media Day, but we're going to get into it with him. Talk a little bit about his move to Sanford MMA, which I completely forgot he left Evolve and gone to Sanford. I don't know why I forgot that, but
Well, I think
we
he's originally from Florida.
yeah,
So
I
it
just had
makes sense.
forgotten he'd left. I think I saw it on Instagram. He posted, but anyway, yeah. After that, yeah, we're gonna. Sorry, John. I had to fill the time here because of the gap. So we're going to jump the gun and have Misha Tate this week. John wanted to save Misha for the next show.
Oh, okay. So we're having her then. All
yeah,
right.
we'll get Misha. I'm sure we can ask her about the atomweight Grand Prix and everything. And her return to training. She's back training in Extreme Couture in Las Vegas.
All right.
Make of that what you will. And then the piece de resistance at the end, 12 o'clock. Tan Lee and Gary Tonin face off on at the same time. Gonna get these two in the same room virtually to talk about potentially fighting each other for that featherweight title. I'm sure Martin will have a few things to say earlier about that.
Gian Radzuan, she's done.
I forgot to tell you that. Jihan cannot make it because this is why we had to rejig everything. She got a blood test on Wednesday as part of her lockdown quarantine protocols.
So she can't do it a little bit early.
She cannot do it. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it all out. I feel like the matchmakers at the UFC are one, shifting everything around after some COVID dropouts. As it stands, that is the lineup. We can see what we can do with Jihin. Maybe get her next time. Yeah, that's it. Tune in 8 a.m. tomorrow. SCMP 1 live. Should be a great day. Long day, but yeah, just if you've got nothing to do these days with COVID on, why not join us with your coffee wherever you are in the morning, in the world. Sorry, if it's the morning, have a coffee, have some breakfast. If it's nighttime, put us on in the background, like Adam H when he does his chores. He puts us in the background. Wherever you are, join us when you can, even if it's for one interview or the whole slog. You can ask all your favorite fighters a question. You can leave a comment, get involved in the chat, do whatever you want. Other than that, yeah, we're going to be back Thursday. John, you got your post-fight live chat. Who's the guest this week?
Mike. We're going to be talking about betting, MMA gambling.
All right.
He's an expert at that, and he works over there at MMA Odds Breakers. A guy that has been in the game for a while, and we're going to talk about all of that because something that I have no idea about, and I'm interested to talk about that. I think a lot of people in Asia don't understand it too well, so we'll see what happens. Let's go out with a couple of questions, right? Two questions. We're gonna go with 2 questions, and then we're gonna be out of here. First one is, how far in advance do you usually schedule your interviews? For myself, sometimes I get interviews like a day in advance, 2 days, 3 days. Sometimes like I schedule interviews like a week ahead of time. It all depends, but yeah, it all depends. So sometimes I'll get a call or an email and be like, okay, my fighter has time at this slot tomorrow night or tonight. and it's about like 5 hours from now. You know, it all depends on like if I'm busy or not. But yeah, it's just the Wild West, man. Like there's nothing like a set way of doing anything. But for the live show, Nick would tell you exactly how all that works. So explain to him.
I am comically disorganized when it comes to most things in life, especially arranging interviews. I just do it on the fly usually. With the live show, I'll try and be a little more organized because there's 6 or 7 people, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, maybe we'll start lining things up a week before. When did we? Yeah, about a week for the show because it's official show. We do with one. The PR kind of gets in touch a little bit ahead of time to figure it all out, and we can usually get whoever we want. Couldn't get Lauren Tynanes. Yeah, he's not so great with his media apparently. Some people just don't want to do media, John, I think, and I can respect that.
What can you do, man? Like, we're lucky to have just the amount of fighters that come on and give us their time. So I can't complain too much about certain fighters not being able to, schedule something for us. But, hopefully they do. I always keep optimistic.
Yeah, and Martin, we're going to talk to Martin about Jaeyoung, I think, aren't we?
Tune in tomorrow for the live show. We're going to be talking to Martin about Jaeyoung's call out. That's like one of the reasons I reached out to Martin to get him on, is because that reason. And to see like, okay, what he's gonna do if they set up the fight with Gary Tonin and Ton Lee. Like, what's his move? What's his plan? So we'll see what happens.
We should get Onglar on to talk about his fight as well.
Oh, he has a fight?
No, that's the joke.
Uh,
Remember, we had so many people saying, "When's Onglar fighting?" last weekend on our live fight companion.
Definitely.
I don't know what went on there, man. Like everyone seemed to think in Myanmar that Onglar had a fight. He did not. He does not have anything booked. As soon as he does, we'll have him on the show, I'm sure.
Exactly. So make sure everybody to subscribe, like, and yeah, thank you for everybody that joined us and commented. Always helps to be active in the chat. And next time we'll see you guys. Actually, we'll see you guys if you join us tomorrow morning in Asia, which is tomorrow evening in North America. See you guys.
See you later, guys. Thank you from me as well. Cheers.